We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. The subject this morning, as you see on the screen, is combating addiction. With us from the Next Door, an organization that helps those of you who are dealing with addiction problems. They're going to be answering questions for you, talking with us. Ashley Rakestraw, she's the Clinical Services Manager. Carrie Frazier, Director of Spiritual Wellness and Alumni Services. They have success stories that have made it through the program. And Director of Nursing, Nita Chester. Thanks all for coming on. Appreciate it. Let's take a phone call. Someone who waited through the break. We'll go to Lane. Lane, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Lane. Go ahead.
Okay. I admire those ladies for what they're doing, but I have a statement I have to get over the TV. Okay. You know, you probably remember me. It was my little granddaughter that was murdered. Okay. I called the Department of Children's Services in Nashville to see what could be done. When I told her name was Christy Timmersey.
Now, let me ask you this, though. Hold on, Lane. And I do remember you've called before. Now, does this have anything to do with the subject of the addiction? Was there drugs involved in what happened to your granddaughter?
No, there was no drugs. But I want this over the air.
Okay, well, you're going to have to call in on a different show because we're not talking about that right now. Let's go to Brian. Brian, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, was it the middle lady that was the one who came in for treatment and then she became like a worker person?
I don't think any of you are recovering addicts, correct?
No, correct.
I think many of them have had family members. I have had family members that have dealt with that, but that's it. Yeah, they're not recovering themselves.
Oh, so the block grants...
yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, the block grants, they come from the government. Now, that's my taxes going to work there, right? And I think it's a good deal. I'm just wondering who oversees that, one of my state legislatures or...
Okay.
Do they have any, is it all women working there? Is there men, or is it because it's a women's center, or what's the deal on that? Where's it located? Okay.
Yeah, you want to just go over the basics of the funding and the staffing, and as I said, the location's in Nashville and Charlotte.
So we have 2 men that work in the facility, but none of them are patient care.
Okay.
Because it's all
women.
It's all women.
All right.
And as far as where the block grants come from, it is a government subsidized program. I'm not sure exactly where that comes from.
But it's federal. Federal dollars. Are there any state dollars? I guess, as you said.
I think there is a little bit of state funds in there. It's Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse assists us in kind of allocating those funds appropriately.
Right. Okay.
So again, it depends on if the client has insurance. If we're able to bill their insurance, sometimes that's a good way to go. But if they don't have insurance, then we'll see what types of grant they qualify, and if we're able to accept that grant, then that works out really well.
I'm curious, you know, since it's primarily women, why is it primarily women? How did that develop in terms of the services available? And is there a difference in dealing with a male addiction as opposed to a female addiction? I mean, I just view addiction as addiction, but I suspect there are differences, especially when you bring children into the equation.
I think one thing we have to consider when we're treating women is all the different roles that they play. A lot of them are the homemaker, the mother. They may be the breadwinner at times. So if you leave for 30 days to go get treatment and your children don't have care, or you leave them in the care of a loved one, it's very hard for these women to stay 30 days when their life continues on outside of our treatment center, and they might find out that their kids are really missing them and having a hard time without them there. And so they really have to work hard to stay in the treatment center and not let those things call them back, because they are important.
Well, how do you help them with that? Seriously, if it's a single mother with 2 kids that has the addiction problem and somehow she's been referred, comes to you for help, has means, what do you help them set up some kind of child care, or they're not spending the night with you, right? I know you have some intake where they're 24/7, or do they have to stay the whole time? Overnight, you know, for a period of time.
The residential clients are there.
So what if they have kids? What, they bring them with?
No, they...
Yeah, we have several different care managers who do an excellent job helping them find resources. So if they call our admission line and our admission specialists find out that they have children, we'll try to work something out with them, see if they have a loved one who the child can stay with. But there's actually agencies in Nashville that are outside of DCS and foster care related that will watch children over a time that go through the same process as a foster family but aren't involved with DCS, that will watch the children while the mother gets treatment. And we'll try to help them once they get into the facility, ensuring that they get to talk to their children, that they feel comfortable with where their children are at, and continue to maintain that contact, because that's important. We can't expect a mother to not talk to her children for 30 days. So we do our best to ensure that they feel like their children are safe and taken care of while they're with us.
Yeah, because kind of, thinking about someone, a mother who's single, dealing with addiction, and she loves her kids, but when that comes up, depending on how bad it is, she may be worried that DCS is going to step in and take the kids away, which, if it's bad enough, DCS should. So I'm trying to decide, I mean, you have to convince them, that they're not going to lose their children, which I think them seeking help is a great sign that they want to do the right thing. But you have to get past that for them, don't you? I mean, or is DCS sometimes involved already?
Sometimes.
Sometimes they're involved, and I think for most of our women, by the time they're ready to step into our doors, they're ready for help. They're tired, they feel broken, and they want help, and so they've already worked some things out with family if they do have some family support, or like Ashley said, they call and we'll help them figure out those other pieces to get in the door. So most of the time they're willing to come in. They're at that place where they know that this is the next step and they need help.
Yeah. If I were to come in there now, what would I notice demographic wise? Are they younger? Older? Is it a mixed bag? What is your oldest patient there? Is it mostly younger women? Is it just runs the range?
I would say a mixed bag. I mean, there's 20s, 30s, 40s. I think.
I'd say our primary age group is usually between 28 and 40, but it does ebb and flow. I've had a client all the way up to, I believe she was 76 at one point, wanting to turn her life around, and we've had clients as young as 18. As
young as 18 that come through there. Wow, that's amazing. Well, it makes sense. I mean, it could touch everyone at this point.
Absolutely.
So I guess, I wonder sometimes folks who have never been addicted to a drug or something like this. So we try to do such a job as, and I know you do, of educating. Talk about why it is you think some of these people became addicted. Was it because of they had a back problem and they were given these pills? They had a chronic pain that they kept doing and it got out of control? Was it that they just were on the street and thought it was fun to party with these pills and get hooked? Why is someone getting addicted to these opioids the way they are? And what is the incredible draw that it just, in the cases you've seen?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody takes that first pill and thinks, oh, let me ruin the rest of my life or lose my children.
Right.
It's honestly, it all starts out, very innocently. You have that first drink when you're in high school or you're at a, college party. You never anticipate that this is going to happen to you. Then a lot of our ladies have a lot of trauma. As do a lot of people, and so they use that as a mean to cope. Once they realize that they can escape all that craziness in their head, then who wants to have to deal with reality when you can stay in?
It's an escape. So when you talk about trauma, I know it could be anything from stress of life with the children and maybe an abusive situation with a partner, but do they also suffer from mental illness? A lot of them?
Most definitely.
So, I guess that takes us to the treatment plan. Then, when they come in, I guess the first thing when someone comes in, maybe walk it through. You sit down and you talk to them and find out where they're coming from, right? How does that work? I mean, what are the questions that are asked to decide? How did you get started? What are you using? Do you have a mental illness? I don't know. They may not even know if they have one. So, how do you handle that?
So, everybody that walks through the door sees a nurse that first hour or so, and they do an assessment, and you just discuss your health issues, your mental health issues, signs and symptoms of different things. We call it a substance abuse assessment, just to figure out what they've been abusing, because some things require detox and some things don't, so that kind of determines what we need to be looking for, and then just based on where they start, then we go from there.
All right, so some need detox and some don't. What, based on what? That's the type of drug they're on, or how long they've been using it, or what would be one that needs detox, I guess?
Alcohol for sure. Benzodiazepines, which is your Xanax and Valium and Klonopin, and both of those can cause seizure activity.
When if you come cold turkey off it?
Yes. And then your opioids is not as life-threatening. It's not life-threatening, but you feel terrible. So it's so hard for them to go cold turkey because they feel so bad. So all those would require detox. Most of your stimulants, like your cocaine or your methamphetamines or amphetamines, those don't really require you. If they come in after using, then usually they just have to come down off their high, and then they have lots of cravings, but there's really no detox for it.
Okay, so when you have someone that's coming off of an opioid and they're feeling lousy, do you give them something else? Because we've heard about Suboxone and all of these, where I guess Suboxone's a drug, right?
It is.
It's just considered to be something more manageable than obviously the opioid they were on in the first place.
So what we use is Subutex, which is buprenorphine, but without the Narcan, the naloxone.
Okay.
The Suboxone actually has the narcotic and the antagonist mixed together, so you are dealing with the pain of the addiction and not hurting so bad, but you're not getting that little high buzz in your head because it's kind of counteracting that.
Okay.
So we just use the Subutex because we just use it for detox. We don't do maintenance.
Oh, so after they've detoxed out, they'll come off the Subutex, and then
it's a taper.
You taper it off. How long does that usually take?
6 to 8 days.
6 to 8 days, and then when they come off that, they can not necessarily have to be on anything else.
Exactly. Now, I'm not going. They'll have cravings, definitely, and that's something that we deal with every day. I know that the clinical department hears about it quite frequently, but you know, it's usually you can talk through it, and with the support of your community and your case managers and your therapists, you know, you can usually work through all that. But you don't have the aching and the you feel like you have when you're in narcotic withdrawal or opioid withdrawal, you feel like you have a severe case of the flu. So we've usually gotten over that.
Yeah. All right, listen, we'll take a break on that note. When we come back, we can take more calls. 737-7587. Have you dealt with an opioid addiction or any addiction, I guess, any of these substances we're talking about? Give us a call. We're going to continue our conversation right after this break. Stay with us.
This is a Storm 5 HD